Picture this. You're lying awake at 2 a.m., heart is racing because someone hasn't texted you back. Or maybe you're refreshing your email obsessively, waiting to hear if you got that job. Does that sound familiar? Here's the thing. We've all been there. We've all been there. That desperate, clinging feeling when we want something so badly, it literally feels like our life depends on it. But what Max and I have learned after years of coaching with clients and wrestling with this individually as previous anxious and avoidance ourselves, there's a huge difference between wanting something and being attached to it. Today, we're diving deep into how your desires can either fuel your relationships or completely destroy them. We're going to explore where desires actually come from. It's not about the person or thing you want. And we're going to give you practical techniques to loosen that death grip so you can want things without them owning you. Welcome to Chaos and Chemistry, a podcast focused on having all the chemistry and feel-good you desire in your relationships without the chaos and toxicity. My name is Legan. I'm a former counselor turned coach, and I'm here with my friend and co-host Max.
Hey guys, my name is Max. I'm a relationship and trauma coach helping people transform their lives.
So Max, why does today's topic matter?
Okay, it's very simple because here's the truth. When you desperately seek anything, you are sowing the seed for misery and desperation. Desperately trying to control others and your environment, leading to anxiety, frustration, and burnout. So let's talk about how to manage your wants and desires so that they enhance your life instead of destroying them. So what's the difference between an attachment to a desire and just having a desire? Like, is it bad for me to just want something, want it really badly? Why wouldn't that be a good thing?
I mean, simply put, just having a desire isn't going to control you, and it's not going to impact your emotional well-being. So if I desire a soda today, okay, if I desire a Diet Coke, it just means like, oh, I'd prefer that. That'd be great if that happened. I hope that I can make time for that today. There's this like loose energy between me and the Diet Coke. I'm not focused on it. I'm not thinking about it. I'm not feeling nervous or anxious until I get it. When we're attached to a desire, the desire is in control. And so that text message, you're not okay until you get that text message. You're not okay until you hear back from that company that interviewed you. You don't feel like you are worthy or lovable or can be okay in your body until this person chooses you. So desiring love is beautiful, right? Like we should all desire love and desire there to be more love in the world, but needing it comes from a totally different place. When you can desire things without an attachment to them, life feels like you're swimming downstream. You're not resisting what's happening in your life. You're just this lovely piece of driftwood floating down a river. And you're desiring things like, oh, I hope that happens, or that would be great, or that would be cool, or that would be lovely. But there's not a need for the thing that you desire. You're okay whether you have it or not. There's a feeling of deep okayness with or without it. So I'd love a text message in the morning. That'd be fun. That'd be nice. But I'm okay if I don't receive it. So when you're attached, you are not okay without that thing. And I think that's the simplest way to put it. And when it comes to love addiction, anxious attachment, avoidant attachment, we are in a power struggle with the desire. So we're not just going with the flow and letting life happen and trusting that it will come in its own time, or maybe it's not meant for me right now. We're not open to possibilities. We are zoomed in, and all we can see is this thing that we're attached to. And all we can see is why we need it. There's no other options of why it might be good to not have it. It's we need it, whether it's a new client, a sale, a lover, a partner, a husband. I mean, it's just a wife, a child. All those things are actually just neutral things that can add value to your life. They don't change your level of worthiness. But when we're attached, the desire has too much importance placed on it. We've given it a deeper meaning than it was ever intended to have. A desire was never meant to be something that is the source of our emotional well-being. Like pizza should not be the source of my emotional well-being. And when I make it the source of my emotional well-being, then my emotional well-being is dependent on pizza. I mean, that's really scary. But when we're attached to food, that's what we're doing. When we're attached to love, when we're attached to someone choosing us, we're saying that I am not okay unless this thing out here, I have it. I like to compare it to desires are like accent pieces. So desires are things that you put in your house to make your house pretty, visually enjoyable, give it a certain feel, emotional energy. So desires are the accent pieces that make your house feel like a home. When we're attached to a desire, we've made the furniture, the accent pieces, our actual home. And it was never designed to be that. So the house, who we are, ends up feeling very empty because it is empty. Because we've made all the things that we're supposed to add to it, the whole enchilada, the whole house. It's knowing where you've placed this desire. How important is it? Why do you need that good morning text? Why do you need it?
I think properly putting the desire where it belongs in your life is super important. It can't be filling some deep void within you because it's never intended for that. It has to be something that you would like to have, but if it isn't there, it's not going to destroy you. If you don't have the beautiful potted plant in the front yard to make the house look nice, it's not going to be the end of the world because you haven't made it the house. The house is still there, right? Your sense of well-being is still there, regardless if there's a pot front or not,
Yes. I mean, really, you could just keep going with this analogy. Like, I would love to get new pillows for my couch. Yeah. I would love that. I mean, but I don't think about it all day long. I'm not focused on it all day long. I'm not like planning out when I'm going to go get those pillows. So that's the difference. It's just something that, yeah, that'd be nice. It's light. It feels light.
It doesn't send you into like withdrawal if you don't have it.
Yes.
That's when you really know you screwed up somewhere, because if a text message sends you into a spiral and you go through addictive withdrawal symptoms, then it's no longer that light, nice to have. You just enjoy it. It's something much deeper. So you have to look at that. What desire have you put at the center of your being, which should have always been the pot on the front yard, And I think love addiction and avoidance, and everybody has these deep, unhealed parts of themselves. These desires now have become the center point of their lives. And that is the recipe, as you said, for really a struggle and really yo-yoing back and forth between I get it, I don't get it, I get it, I don't get it. And it's quite a difficult state to live in.
Yes. And then once you get the desire, it's never enough. It's never enough because the house is empty. So you've got all these accent pieces that need to be adding to the house, but you've just got one house after another. So what do you do with that? That doesn't work. Yeah. That doesn't work. So yeah, it's never enough. And so what most people will do is they'll get their desire and then they're so afraid of losing it because you're losing your home.
Yeah.
I mean, that's scary. You wonder why you have nervous system dysregulation when you don't get a text or an email, or you are rejected, or you and your boyfriend are in a fight, or someone says something bad about you. It's because you've taken that desire and made it your home. And so if you ask someone, how does it feel to lose your home? It's scary. It's really scary. And so you have every right to feel as scared as you do. But it's also to look at, why have I made this my home?
Yeah. So it's basically reordering your house so that you know what is the house and what isn't the house. And the house is always going to find within you. It's the self-work you do to discover and heal the parts within you. And then you realize that the love and joy and peace and calm and tranquility you've always been looking for outside of yourself has always been within yourself. But to break that addiction to the potted plant is very difficult. It's very difficult, but that's the journey you have to go on. And then it doesn't matter if you get the potted plant or not. It's nice to have potted plants in front of my house. It's nice to have a nice decorated house, but it's okay if I don't. It's okay. The house is still here. I can still rest in it.
Right. I can still rest in it. I still feel safe. I have a place to come home to. How many of us think of ourselves as what we come home to? Most of us come home to our family. We come home to our partner. We come home to our dog. I mean, you can be attached to your animals. It's, do you see them as your home, or do you see you as your home? And they're just something that adds to it.
And your home, you'll never leave yourself because you're always with you.
Right.
Nothing can be taken from you.
Right. Logically, it makes so much sense. But obviously, on a subconscious level, it doesn't, because so many of us live our lives attached to desires.
Because, that's what we've been taught, right? We're taught that your value is not just intrinsically within yourself, just for being alive, for being kind, for being loving, for being joyful. We're taught that we have to perform, we have to get the good grades, we have to get the good job, people need to respect us, we need to be valued, all this stuff. So we're always chasing these adornments to our life, and they're feeling really hollow inside, thinking that that was going to ultimately make us happy. But again, it's just the misclassification. We thought all those, because that's what they taught us, right? We thought all those things was what they told us was going to make us happy. But sure enough, they're not happy. We're not happy. We really have to retrain our minds to sort out what is actually valuable in life. What are things to desire and what are things that are intrinsic to me and can't be taken from me. So the relationship can break up. I can lose my money, but the home is within you. I love that analogy, Legan. The home was always within you. It cannot be taken from you. No matter if you're at the very bottom, it's still with you.
So before we talk about how you can become the home you've always needed, where does this come from? Why are we all insane? Why do we do this? Why are we attached to ornaments instead of seeing that we're the tree? We're the main event. We're the showstopper. Why do we do this? Where does this come from?
I think it is just trained into us. It is trained into us. We were talking about Legan before the show. I left my corporate career. It was a 6-figure job, very comfortable. And for a time there, I didn't have anything. So I went from like being a somebody with driving, engineering teams and going to important meetings with higher ups to like a nobody, really. And that was quite a shock because I had been conditioned so long that if you don't make a ton of money, you're just like slime. And everyone's like, well, what's wrong with you? So my process of that was I had to really struggle early on to redefine myself. Like, who am I? Am I really what they tell me I am? But in going through that process of like re-examining myself and refining myself, going back to when I was a child, when I was joyful and kind and loving, like, why was that taken away from me? Well, it was taken away from me because people had programmed me to be unhappy, to always be seeking fame and money and wealth. And then the minute I didn't have it, I was back to having to have looked at myself deeply and be like, is this really what I want to sign up my life for? Do I always want to be on this? Do I want to continue doing this? Or do I want to break out? So I think a lot of it is programming from a young age, and the society programs you, but just look at the society. Is anyone happy in the society? Not really, because the programming is so poor. They've made all the ornaments the main essence for a living. So if you make a lot of money, if you're Jeff Bezos, oh, you really win. In the US, it's all about the businessman. The businessman is the most successful. If you have a lot of big money, but nobody in the US is happy, and you have to deprogram yourself. So part of the healing process, not only is like your childhood pain and all these unresolved traumas, but the ideology and belief systems that you live your life by. If you live by these ideologies that are putting material things, who your partner is, and all these superficial things as the core self, you'll always feel hollow inside because that is not your core self. This has been known for thousands of years in spiritual circles that can never fulfill the void within you.
Amen to that. And it really does all go back to this false identity that we believe is our identity. And so I've been there different times in my life when I've lost things that I was very identified with. I think aging is really hard for a lot of people because we identify so much with how we look and youth and health. So that's really hard for people. So there's, that's another great example. Like, there's nothing wrong with desiring to be healthy as you age, but are you attached?
I would say, like, who told you that aging is bad? Right? If we have a marketing and society and TV showing like, oh, if you're super beautiful and young, you get all the movie roles. And then if you're old, you're just like decrepit and we're ready to just kick you to the side. Then of course, when you age, you'll feel like crap because that's what literally programmed you. But if you look at other societies that revere the elderly, revere the women and men of wisdom, the shamans, the spiritual mothers, then aging was great because you have prestige and respect in that society. But in our society, we've been programmed very differently. So it does go into programming. We're literally beating ourselves up because of other people's ideas. Aging can be looked upon as a beautiful thing.
Yes. I remember when I was very attached, especially in my 20s, early 30s, I was very attached to food and my body and, this perfectionism around food in my body. And I remember one of the ways I did lots of different things to heal that attachment, which is why I'm creating a program around it. But one of the things that I did is I surrounded myself with photos and pictures of women of all different shapes and sizes. I mean, everywhere. Magazines. I only looked at pictures and noticed. I would go out and I would notice what I saw as beautiful. Because that's really what I was seeking. I was seeking a feeling. I was seeking a feeling of femininity and beauty, which is the opposite of rigidity and control and, attachment, right? And so every day I would just go out with this, okay, I'm going to notice every beautiful woman that I see, not skinny, but beautiful. And it was just like the best experiment because I started to see beauty through a different lens, and it started to open me up. And attachments are very narrow. We have a very narrow idea of what we need. So we don't see all the possibilities. They're very much rooted in scarcity, which is limitation. So anytime you have an attachment to a desire, it's really to start changing your relationship with that desire. What does that desire mean about you? And starting with the identity piece. If it's being thin, well, it means I'm this. Okay. Well, does it mean that? What is beauty? Look around. What do you see? What's beautiful?
It's such a beautiful truth that when you're addicted to a certain thing, your consciousness, instead of being open and expansive and loving everything, it narrows right down. It's like, I need this person. I need this hit. I need this drug. I need this and this. And it's so confined and it's so tense and rigid. And the mind is in such an unnatural state. But that's what addictions do to us. And it's funny that you saw that and you started reprogramming yourself to expand, to not be so, that the mind goes so narrow into that, but expand it. Oh, beautiful, Legan.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have to give my mom some credit. My mom, we talk a lot about our parents and childhood wounding and stuff, because when we're attached to a desire, the desire consumes us. So, I was consumed with exercise, food, restriction, overeating. It was just this power struggle with food and my body. And I remember my mom one day saying, "Who do you think is the most beautiful girl in town?" I'm from a small town. And I was like in high school. And immediately I named two girls. Their bodies completely different. One would be considered very thin, and one would not be considered thin. Those were the two. And she said, "Why?" And I described their personality. I described their hair. I described the way they presented themselves. Like one of them always dressed like so cute, and she just was so friendly, and you just loved being around her. And she said, "See, like you're missing it." So when we're attached to a desire, like you said, we miss out on all the love that's in our life because we don't have that special person. Maybe we're attached to being a mom. So we miss out on all the ways that we are maternal and that we do share that side of ourselves in life. So we keep ourselves so empty when we're attached.
Yeah. What comes to mind is like the tree analogy. The addiction is like one branch. We look at everything through like one branch, and then the tree just becomes this one branch tree. But as you're saying, and it's so wonderfully put, to break out of that narrow-mindedness and that hyper-focused on one thing, you have to expand the tree to all the branches. And life is just so expansive. And the tree can really blossom in so many different ways if you allow it to. If you break that addiction and you see that there is so much beauty, you can love your plant. You can love your pets. You can love anything in your house. Everything could be an offering of love to the universe. Right. If you have that expansive needs. But the minute you're like, it's only about my person, it's just like that whole tree just gets collapsed into one root. And it's just like a very weird looking tree.
Well, it's the Charlie Brown tree. Remember the Charlie Brown tree?
With the
Charlie Brown? Yeah, it's like, and it's like limp.
Yeah.
And it's got
it's
like
one stump with a...
Yeah.
It's become a stump, basically.
Yeah. And it's only got one ornament on it because it's only got one branch. So your life and all the desires that could be adding to your life, there's no room for them. You wouldn't be able to see them even if they were there because there's no room.
The people that are really beautiful are just so creative and expansive and have so many areas in their life that are so interesting, right? But the person that like, okay, I'm only attractive, I'm really hot, I go to the gym and work out and look at my buff muscles at the expense of really building out the whole character. And yeah, it might attract some people, but the people that are actually wise, they see the beauty in that person that may not be the hottest physically, but are so beautiful and so nurturing and so loving. Anybody that's loving and nurturing has developed that part, has done so much work on themselves. That is truly a miracle. A miracle. In this day of age, with all the programming, it's a miracle people can do. So it totally makes sense. I love your mom.
I know.
So wise. Yeah.
She has some wise moments, I'll tell you. The other thing, too, is speaking of parents, usually we see their attachment to desires first, and that really becomes a part of our attachment. So attachment comes from the mother, the parent. So those are our first attachments. And so if they're attached to a desire, then we're going to look at their house and go, that's what a house should look like, right? It should just be, but we don't know that on the inside it's empty. We don't know that because we're children. And so many of us have the same attachments that our parents did. We may present them differently, or we might have like, usually what I see is like the other extreme. So you may have an attachment to my power or success, but it presents in a different way. Does that make sense?
Totally does. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've noticed
I'm
that too.
saying that a lot today. I don't know why. I feel like I'm confusing. I don't know. I'm not going to say all anymore. I'm not saying, does that make sense? I'm having a talk with myself real quick.
I assume I never make sense, and that's perfectly fine by me. To make sense is really an addiction I don't want, so I'm okay with just babbling. And it's true that our parents do get us, though. We're basically combinations of our parents and that early. All my anxiously attached people, my avoidance, they're just exactly what you would expect. They have the abandonment wounds from their childhood, and they built their house like their parents built their house, and they're just continuing that role. So becoming aware that you're just building the same house that was taught to you in such an automatic way is really the first step to healing this. So wonderful. Okay, on to the next point.
So how do you downgrade an attachment to a desire so that it's just a plain old desire?
Yeah.
Like,
I think,
how do you loosen it? How do you loosen that mental grip on it and remember who you are?
There's a couple different things you can use. One of them is to first classify what the desire is. And there's just a model that has three things. Okay. It can be a security addiction, a sensation addiction, or a power addiction. So you want to go through your life and examine when you notice a desire to come up. If I want a ton of pizza, right? Pizza would be a sensation addiction. Anything that feels good, the nice yacht or the money, those are feel goods, too much desire for nice things. So just recognize that the mind has the ability to get lost in sensations, and those have to be put on the side. They can't be your core identity to always be seeking out food or always be seeking out money, because that's not going to help you. So watch out for sensation addictions. Another one is security addiction. This is all about the need to feel safe and secure. Think about constantly worrying about money, shelter, anything that else you equate to safety. The programming here forces us to continually struggle to get enough in the world. If you have this addiction, notice it in your life. Start categorizing it. Okay, there's my security addiction coming up. And start slightly loosening it up. And the last addiction type is power addiction. The urge to dominate people in situations and to increase your prestige, wealth, and pride. This often comes up, in work, in a lot of our relationships. Again, watch it come up. So you want to watch out for security addictions, sensation, and power. And once you classified it, start backing it up. Just see it as part of the normal process that the mind goes through and dial it back a little bit. Oh, there's my power addiction to want to dominate. I can step back a little bit and start dialing it down. So I think kind of bucketing everything in one of these three helps you simplify what could be, you can have thousands of little mini addictions, but once you classify, that really helps.
I love that. And Max, do you think you could have all three in one? Because when I look back on my attachments, I was definitely attached to food. I was definitely attached to this ideal body. And then I was simultaneously attached to love. And so, but I didn't know it, but I could see all three components within both areas. So with food, there were at times that it did give me a sense of security. It did give me a sense of power at a time when I felt very powerless as a child. And there's also the sensation. So, what if it's all three?
Yeah, you can definitely have all three of them at once being played out. And that's okay. The mind has this intrinsic need for this. We've kind of evolved over millions of years. Power was very important in survival, right? Sensation's very important of building the human race to find novelty and find the delicious fruits. And security was very important for our preservations. Everything in our environment can be a multiple of these things. And it's totally natural, but you can't be unconscious to it. You don't want to not know that what you're doing at work is really just a power addiction, and then just start working at chipping away at that. Once you have it classified, you're halfway there.
Some techniques that you can do is once you classify it, and you know what you're actually needing, then you can ask yourself, that's that zoom out part that we talk about. Then you can zoom out and go, okay, well, what other ways could I feel secure right now? What other things could give me a sense of security, even power? Where do I feel powerless? Okay, if I connected to my power, what would I do? A lot of times when we're lacking these security, power, sensation, we're waiting on something to happen to us, or we're grabbing at things to make us have security, power, or the sensation we're looking for. So challenging yourself to create security, create a sense of empowerment, create the sensation that you're looking for, whether it's comfort or pleasure or stimulation. Okay, how might else you get it? And so then you're not dependent on the desire, you become that creator.
Yeah.
So you're no longer a victim to the desire, you're a creator. You're working with the desire, and it feels so much better. So let's recap the key takeaways. There's a crucial difference between having a desire and being attached to one. Attachment happens when you tie your identity and worth to getting that thing, while a healthy desire won't destroy your emotional well-being if it doesn't work out. These attachments to our desires are rooted in seeking an external identity because you don't feel secure within yourself. You're terrified of who you are without this person, job, or outcome. So what's the antidote? Remember who you are, make peace with worst-case scenarios, accept that nothing external can permanently change your internal state. You are your home. To learn more about us and how we might be able to help you feel better in the life you have today while creating the life you truly want, check us out on www.chaosandchemistry.com or send us an email at connect@chaosandchemistry.